Hi, welcome to learnhowtogarden.com. In today's episode we're going to be sowing broad beans. These are also known as fava beans in a lot of the world. If you're not already subscribed to me at Learn How to Garden, if you click on the link below this film, go to the website, input your email address, and it means that you get access to all the written content that I do. It also lets you know any courses that we're running at Learn How to Garden or any events that we're attending this year. Broad beans are a crop we should all be growing. We should be growing it because it grows throughout the winter, which is at a time when a lot of us don't have anything growing in our vegetable beds. But also, one of the fantastic things about beans, and broad beans as well, is that they fix nitrogen into the soil. That means that as they grow, the actual leaves extract nitrogen from the air and they sit on tiny little nodes in the soil. So they're fantastic for getting in the ground as a green manure so that the follow-on crop has access to that nitrogen. And because broad beans can be cropped and be out of the ground for sort of June time at the earliest, it means you can actually then get things like squash, pumpkins or courgettes, which would love that nitrogen, in for the second half of the year. And they're really, really easy to grow. The one thing I would say, although a lot of books say you can grow them straight in the ground, you can, but I've always found that it's much better to start things in modules. And that's because you control the environment for the first few weeks. When the seedlings are at their most delicate, you can make sure that they're not attacked by slugs or snails, or in my case I get real problems with mice. Mice tend to like bean and pea seeds, and there are two ways you can do it. One would be to invest in some of these. These are root trainers, and what this is a system that comes flat packed. You close it together, it creates deep modules, which is what the beans like, and because it has these straight lines on, it means that the roots don't grow round and round in a circle, they grow down. And they're great because they're reusable, and once you've got them, all your beans, sweet peas, sweet corn, fantastic started in that. But another option are these, the humble toilet roll. But if you just put toilet rolls here, fill them with compost, they get wet and they start to biodegrade. So a little trick is to actually put them into some of these old plastic containers that bedding plants come in. If you don't have any yourself, local nurseries or garden centres are full of them. And when we look at broad beans, they are a big seed. As we can see, that's quite a large seed, which means I don't have to go to the expense of using a seed compost. I can use potting compost, which is actually cheaper. You just fill these modules with compost. So in the best traditions of TV, here's one I did earlier. So all you do is fill it with compost. When it's full to the top, bounce it. And you bounce it a couple of times to settle the compost. Don't force it with your finger. Roots and plants need oxygen in their roots as much as they need feed. So over compacting it is one of the ways to actually get roots to rot off. Once they've banged down, you'll find that the soil is about one knuckle or a couple of centimetres deep, which is just about perfect for the seed the size of a broad bean. So we take our bean, and with the tiny little black bit at the bottom, just put it in. Now, you might say that's a bit fiddly. It is, but it'll give you better germination. If you bother to do this with chilies, it can increase your germination by up to 20%. Once the beans are in, we just take more compost and gently top off. And with beans, once you've bought beans, you can save your own. I never remember my uncle or my grandfather ever buying bean seeds. They were always kept in a paper bag, very important that it's paper, in a frost-free dark place over winter. There are various types of, varieties of broad bean you can grow. Aqua Dulce grows brilliantly for most people. The Sutton is slightly smaller, so you get 4 beans rather than 7. It's not classed as a long pod type. But if you plant the Sutton now in the spring, it'll probably crop at about the same time as your autumn sown Aqua Dulce. The beans themselves, there are records of these broad beans 6,500 years BC. They're one of the oldest beans. In fact, I have some seeds being given to me to grow this year, which were discovered in Syria in a market about 3 years ago, which I'm really looking forward to. When they're ready to crop, take them off. One of the things that chefs do is they bother to take the outside skin off, which makes them much, much tenderer. And of course you can eat the very sort of delicate tops of the beans, which stops them getting one of their main pests, which is black fly. But that's covered more in our second film, which is about how to plant out and grow these beans. I'll put a link to that underneath this film. Water those thoroughly and then just keep them in a frost-free place. You could keep them in a cold frame, a cold greenhouse, or you could even just keep them outside with a tiny bit of fleece over to keep pests and sort of deluges of rain off. Don't grow them too warm, they don't need heat. We're back to the tortoise and the hare. If we grow something slower, and for gardens we tend to call that harder, that means that the cell wall is thicker, and most pests have actually sort of developed, they have evolved to instinctively know which are weaker plants and they're the ones they attack. Really easy, really simple. If you don't even like the beans, get some in now into some empty space in your garden, because that will be increasing the fertility for whatever we want to plant in the summer. Thanks a lot for watching me here at Learn How to Garden.